Welcome to The Play for Tuesday, May 7th. I'm Dave Morris. Some of the stories we'll be discussing today that'll be on your driveways and newsstands in the Oklahoman tomorrow include an update on the Rebecca Bryan murder trial, proposed furloughs in the Department of Defense, some business news. We're going to talk some Tier 3 gasoline and movement within the Hertz Corporation. And here to join me to talk about that, Nick Tragakis, Don Mikoy. Fellas, thanks so much for your time today.
You're welcome.
Nick, we'll start with you. Prosecutors and the defense attorney spoke to potential jury members this afternoon in the case against the wife of the slain Nichols Hills Fire Chief Keith Bryan. Rebecca Bryan is charged with first-degree murder in the death of her husband. And Nick, should we expect those opening statements tomorrow?
Yeah, all indications are that they will get this thing rolling on Wednesday morning. This has been one of the higher profile murder cases that we've had in a while. We've got our reporter Brian Dean out in El Reno at the Canadian County Courthouse to cover the trial as it gets rolling. Today was just interviewing jurors, weeding out people that the defense might think were favorable to them and the prosecution to them. And what we've heard is that they've got that figured out here by the end of the day Tuesday, and they should be ready to go with opening statements.
Brian Dean will be covering that. Chris Castile is covering another story. Our man in Washington reports the budget cuts spurred talks of widespread furloughs in the Department of Defense. Nick, what are these top military officials saying now about civilian jobs and maybe some other cost-saving solutions? What are they looking at?
Well, we're looking at a situation where we have 16,000 people at Tinker Air Force Base that could be affected, and they're kind of in a state of limbo right now. You had some top officials from the Air Force reiterate today that they're still looking at furloughs and they could be coming up soon. Meanwhile, you had a top official from the Defense Department say, well, we really haven't made a final decision on furloughs yet. So it opens up the idea that maybe they wouldn't even happen altogether. We've already seen the number of furloughs originally proposed at 21 days, now down to like 14 days. It creates a little bit of uncertainty, and we are trying to visit with people out at Tinker to get some reaction. How does this affect them as they try to just go forward and plan the rest of their year out? Chris Castile in the Washington Bureau is working the story from over on the East Coast, and he'll have all this reaction in the paper and of course on News OK.
Chris always does a fine job. Don Mikoy is here from our business desk. Let's talk about some Tier 3 gasoline. The EPA has proposed a new Tier 3 gasoline standard. It would reduce the sulfur content allowed in gas and require vehicle manufacturers to improve engines to reduce emissions. Don, it's a story Adam Wilmoth is working on. How could these changes impact the cost of gas or maybe even the price of new cars?
Well, the EPA said that it might just cost maybe a penny a gallon to have these more restrictive standards about how much sulfur you can have in gasoline. Some of the opponents to this, which includes like the American Petroleum Institute, they're saying, well, it could make it much more expensive, that it could be 20, 30, 40 cents a gallon. And they're just trying to slow down the process a little bit. They want a public hearing. They want a lot of evaluation of this before any of this goes into effect. And so we've talked to people, and Adam has talked to people on both sides of the issue, and we'll have a good examination of that in the paper tomorrow. One
of the other headlines this morning was movement within the Hertz Corporation, and that affects some jobs here in Oklahoma possibly.
It really does. You need a little background on this because Hertz not too long ago bought Dollar Thrifty, which is based in Tulsa. A couple of $1 billion they spent to buy that company. Hertz is based in New Jersey, and they have been evaluating where their headquarters would best be, and they decided to move them to Florida. They're going to take some of these really high-paying executive jobs that are in Tulsa, and they're also going to move to Florida. Our colleagues at the Tulsa World are telling us could be about 100, maybe as many as 120 jobs in Tulsa that could move there. Now keep in mind, we also have a fairly substantial Hertz operation here in Oklahoma City. Hertz says it's going to continue to have a presence in Oklahoma. They're going to continue to have their IT services, their financial services, customer service things here in Oklahoma, which is good news for us.
All right, the story we'll be following. Of course, you can read more about all of these stories you mentioned tomorrow in the Oklahoman, and of course online at newsok.com.